I am so glad, though, that you guys have joined me tonight for our last webinar, 2019. It has been fun. I started this end of January with a lot of thoughts and a lot of plans and a lot of topics going through my head. And now that I've narrowed it down, I think all the topics have left my head. So that to me tells me I'm done, right? But in January, we will start back up, but doing the Come Follow Me Book of Mormon study and how it relates to us as single adults. And so that's the plan for 2020. If all goes well and as planned, I will not continue in 2021. Someone else can take this over if they so choose. But otherwise, that is what I will be doing. So for now, I am just thrilled that you guys are here tonight. And I want to really open a lot of this up for a lot of different discussions, because there have been different topics or different people recently talking to me about different things. And I think a lot of it just boils down to happiness and joy and peace in our life, which is, we're coming up on the time of season when we sing about that. We talk about peace and joy and hope. And it is something that I relish in, but I won't say that I do that every day. There's some days when I feel like hope is lost and joy is gone and faith is being tried more than I feel like I can handle it, just as I'm sure many of you have felt. But during this time of year, and then, peace is gone. If you got teenagers in the home, I'll pray for you. But you guys are awesome, right? But let's just say it can be challenging at times. But anyway, when we think of peace and joy and happiness and projecting into our futures and in our lives presently, what does that look like for you? What does that mean? Do you feel that? Or do you feel like, oh no, I need to make a certain income, have a certain job, buy a certain car, have a certain house, have a relationship, have a whatever, then I'll feel that. So when we think about peace, hope, love, joy, whatever, faith, all those lovely little feelings and experiences that we all want and strive for, what does it look like in your life? How is it showing up? What is it that you have hope for within the next month or maybe the next year or whatever, to have those in your life? Or do you presently, and how do you maintain that peace, joy, and hope, faith, love, all those lovely little attributes? How do you maintain that for your family, especially around the holidays and, throughout your lives in general? Anyone want to speak up? And I know I'm kind of, putting this on you now. Anyone want to share any thoughts on that?
For me, this time of year is always kind of tricky because there's, I've got my kids that live all over the world, and then there's their dad that's involved in it. And so for me, it's just a balance and lots of communication on how to keep the holidays happy. And my ex and I get along great. We do things together all the time. So that part is not hard. It's just the expectations, managing expectations throughout the whole holiday, because either they spend a lot of money to come back or go back to Virginia, or their dad and I spend a lot of money to come out here and be with them. And so there's a lot of expectations that you have to manage. And I think one thing that I've done really well this year is communicate through all of that, instead of allowing the expectations to dictate our time together. We've communicated through that, and it's actually made our time together a lot better, a lot more peaceful, and a lot more joy instead of contention and hurt feelings. So to me, that aspect of joy in my life really gets a lot better through great communication and making sure everybody's expectations are being taken into account, and give and take, and that through the holidays. So that was what I was going to add.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Because a lot of times the breakdown in relationships, or the breakdown in, the lack of whatever feelings that people are feeling, is to a lack of meeting expectations and not communicating those. So I love that you're doing that. That is so awesome. So that is why sometimes I'll ask people if they ever they say, whenever I'm asking them, what does Christmas look like and feel like to you when it's happy? And they say, well, I don't know. And then I say, well, if you wake up Christmas morning, what is it that you feel like if it did not happen, you're going to be disappointed? You know what I mean? So sometimes we can reword that question if they can't think of, well, I don't know what I'd want. I don't know what I like. Well, what is it that you feel like you'd be disappointed if it didn't happen? So sometimes that's a great way to ask it. But Jennifer, it sounds like you guys have it down on how to communicate and how to set those expectations and how to communicate those. So that's awesome. That's so awesome. I love that. I know sometimes it helps to know, who's going to be where, when, kind of thing, and talking about that way ahead of time and making those plans for that, especially if you're dealing with two parents with adult children, or two parents with any children, right? And knowing what day are they going to spend where, and making sure that all flows well, or as well as can be, so that then, again, expectations are there. So that's awesome. Okay. Anybody else have any other thoughts on that?
How about if I one-up Jennifer a little bit? I go about this, as a divorced father, in a completely different, coming at it from the other end. I don't have expectations about the day. I don't care if I see my kids Christmas Day, Thanksgiving, Easter, as long as I see them. It doesn't even have to be that week. It doesn't bother me. So my expectations have not been, high and then been dashed on the rocks. With my ex and I, we give and take, and if she wants the kids super bad this Christmas, that's fine, take them. We're almost out of the woods there anyway. Ben is 17, so he's almost graduated anyway. So, but yeah, I just go with a very laid back attitude. It is my attitude. I am laid back, so I don't worry about the day. It's nice when there's a Christmas program or something like that, and you make it for that. Those things that aren't going to be able to be duplicated. But I just moved my oldest son and his family out of Wisconsin. They're back in Arkansas just before Thanksgiving. Am I upset? No. That's where they need to be, and I'll be supportive of that.
Well, okay, there you go. So there are people that don't have expectations of spending time with family during the holidays. I know that to some of us, especially as moms, relationships are vital. Like what we do, when we do it, the memories we create, the traditions we have. We put a lot of plans into it. And I know that for a lot of dads that is cool too. But Pat, that is definitely a different spin on it, and definitely one where it does create less contention. So that's cool. I'm glad that works for you. That's awesome. All right, Brian, did you have a comment?
I was going to ask Pat, how did you get that? How did you gain that perspective? Was it always that way? Or how did you gain that perspective after your divorce?
I've always kind of been that way. It's an inherited trait from my father. He was just cool as a cucumber about anything that came down the pipe. So for me, it just came naturally. I've witnessed and seen this my whole life, and it was pretty easy for me to emulate that.
So yeah, I don't know that would necessarily be the norm for some of us, because some of us are like, wait a minute, we've got to have our kids. It's a holiday, want to be able to celebrate with them. I know my kids and I have adult children now, so we've worked out where I've told them, I said, I either want Thanksgiving Day or the day after, and I want either Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. Now, because of our family situation, it's either me or their in-laws, right? So it's not really me or their dad, it's me or their in-laws. And so that is what we're trying to work out, because now I've got married children who want to spend also the holidays with in-laws. So yeah, so that would be awesome too, to be able to just figure that out. And either way, I told him, I said, I don't care which day you get, I just want one of those days, So let's work it out however, so that we can all just work together, so that if we're all going to be on Christmas Eve, then you guys all go to your in-laws on Christmas Day. That's awesome. I just need to know this ahead of time, and then that way they can plan for it every year. So again, it's communicated, and they know what's going on. Kelly, did you have a comment to make?
It helps if your kids live all over, scattered, far away. I have one in Seattle, one in Denver, one in Las Vegas, and one right now in England, but they live in South Alabama. But I've been thinking, as I've listened to y'all, I see people get their feelings hurt when they have expectations, too high of expectations. So I would just say, be careful, not too high, but just, I'm putting together everything everybody said. So like the expectations, going back to the beginning, that's awesome. Okay, make sure those expectations are clear, because I've run into something recently with one of my kids thinking, oh, well, this is going to happen when, so-and-so gets priesthood and she gets baptized, it's going to happen. And then she found out something else is happening, and it would cause a big drama scene, so the expectations need to be clear. And then I like Pat's idea of being flexible, because, everything doesn't always pan out. And you set the expectations, but then you don't get your nose bent out of shape if things don't go exactly the way that you think they should, because then it just takes away from the joy of the season. And I don't know. But like I said, I don't have the same, my kids are all scattered everywhere, so I'm lucky if I get to see them at all.
I know, right? Yeah. Yeah, that is true. That's cool. All right. Cool.
So Kelly, you kind of have to pick and choose who you want to see on any given holiday. I mean, obviously you're not going to get them all.
Well, it's funny because I have gotten my feelings hurt this year. Last year I lived with my son, his family in Texas, but since I lived with them, I spent Christmas with my daughter in Alabama. Well, so they're in Denver, so I thought, well, maybe I'll go spend Christmas with that, because I have 4 kids, but 2 of them have grandkids, and that's, Christmas. That's where Christmas is where the babies are. But anyway, so I mentioned to my daughter-in-law, me coming there for Christmas, and she says, well, and then here's where you run into the ex. Well, let me talk to Micah about it. I think Pops is going to come out, so then it's like, yeah. So that's when things start to get uncomfortable. When you're going to visit at your grown children's houses, and you have to make sure that you're not there the same. And I have actually visited with my grown children and my ex-husband, and we spent 3 nights in a beach house together and 3 nights in a lake house together last summer. So it works, but it's a delicate maneuver.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there you go.
Now, I think for me, the expectations come in when there's going to be time for me and for him alone, because we do a lot of things together. I mean, like I said, we get along great. We do tons of stuff together, but I still like alone time, and so does he. And I think it's only fair that he is able to have that close-knit relationship with his kids
Yep.
like I have. I want to foster that for them. I don't want them to feel like it always has to be all of us together. And
Right.
it's, to me, the expectation only gets a little willy-nilly when people want to change what we've agreed to from the jump. And rigidly, I'm learning in my life, maintain rigid flexibility. But in the moment, it's a little bit harried, and you're like, okay, what's going on? Okay, let's get some normalcy back, and then okay, we're good again. So
Right,
I think
right.
that you can have the chaos and joy together.
Yeah.
You just have to learn how to communicate through it.
True.
Well, I love what you said, Jennifer, too, because like I lived with those two babies in Denver for a year, so I'm like they think I still am supposed to be there. You know, it's like, Nana, when are you coming home? You know, I mean, it was that way for a while, and then so when my daughter-in-law told me that he was going to be there, my first thought was, well, you know, we could probably work that out. But then I told them, I said, you know, I think it'd be better if I didn't come then, and that way. Because the kids gravitate to me because they know me better, you know. So I didn't want to be there in the way. You know, I want them to spend time with him, and so I think that it's perfect what you said. You know, you got to keep that in mind. You want to foster those relationships as best in the situation.
True. And Brian, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I was going to share kind of an experience that I had sort of more recently, because as much expectations we might have, we can't always control whether those expectations are going to work out for us or not.
Right.
A couple Christmases ago, and like this Christmas, I did not have my kids with me on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. It's just the way things worked out. And that particular Christmas, things just worked out where I was not invited and almost uninvited to everyone else's Christmas activities in my family and some extended family even. And I think some other things happened. It almost kind of got worse, where mom and dad were, not only were they going to go somewhere else and where I was uninvited, but then things changed and got even worse. Mom and dad got sick and they were in the hospital, both of them at the same time with pneumonia, in separate hospitals. I think Christmas Eve they were actually put in the same hospital, like the week of Christmas. And so I got busy basically doing service and making sure that they had a good Christmas dinner. And because I didn't have anybody and they were stuck in a hospital. And let me tell you, the hospital, if you think you've got it bad, if you're on your own, if you're alone, go to a hospital on Christmas, because it is the most hopeless place. Like, you just can't imagine the despair that's in a hospital on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. It is so quiet. They do not have people there going to sing Christmas carols. They do not have turkey dinner. It is not a happy place. It is a very difficult place to be. So during that time and the Christmas after, I was, you know, kind of listening to hymns and reading hymns, and one hymn kind of caught my attention, a Christmas carol. And so I researched more about where it came from. And I'll tell you kind of a little bit of the story of it, and I'll preface it a little bit and build up in a different angle. But so there was a guy, and you're going to figure it all out at some point or another. But there was a guy who was spending time. This is like in the 1800s, early 1800s. He was his family, wife, and 6 kids were at home. It was winter, and his wife was warming herself by the fire. The fire caught on her petticoat. Got his wife, the mother of these 6 kids. Her petticoat got caught on fire during Christmas season, and she caught on fire. The father, they tried to put the fire out with blankets, and he jumped on top of her, and the fire was so bad that he got burned so bad that she passed away the next day, and he was not able to attend her funeral because the burns on him were so bad that he couldn't get out of bed to go to her funeral. He healed up, and a year later, the Civil War broke out, and his son volunteered to go into the Army. And a year later, around Christmas time, his son was shot through his spine and was paralyzed. And so as he lay next to his son in a military camp on Christmas Eve, he heard some bells ring, and the bells brought him peace. And so the song that he wrote, that was Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, and he wrote the song, I Heard the Bells on Christmas Day. And the third verse says, and in despair I bowed my head. There is no peace on earth, I said, for hate is strong and mocks the song of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Then pealed the bells more loud and deep. God is not dead, nor doth he sleep. The wrong shall fall, the right prevail, with peace on earth, goodwill to men. Till singing, singing on its way, the world revolved from night to day. A voice, a chime, a chant sublime of peace on earth, goodwill to men. And that's kind of part of what Christmas is about. Is somebody was talking about fall and how everything's dying and how beautiful it is that the trees and the leaves seem like they're dying, but how beautiful it still is. And that's, I was talking about to him how that's how fall and Christmas is. And part of the reason why we know as Latter-day Saints that Jesus wasn't, we don't think he was born on December 25th. It was in April. But part of the reason we celebrate Christmas could be because of it's near the winter solstice. And that means it's the end of the bad season, like the end of everything dying. And from here on out, things are going to get better and things are going to grow. And because Christ was born, we will, and because of what he did for us, things can get better and things will get better. And we know how things are going to end. And that's where we can get the peace. And that's where Henry Wadsworth Longfellow got his peace with his wife passed away and his son paralyzed in a hospital on Christmas Eve. That's where he got his peace, is that because of Christ, he would be able to be with his wife again. And he knew what the outcome was going to be and that there could be peace. So anyway, that's just something that helped me one Christmas, and because sometimes Christmas doesn't go well.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. Wow. I really appreciate that. And you're right. There are a lot of people that spend Christmas alone, that don't have a place to go, that don't have family to go to or whatever. And I really appreciate you sharing that experience. I have been in the hospital close to Christmas, but not on Christmas. And that is good to know about hospitals. So if anyone is alone on Christmas Eve or day, that's a great place to go. I know Christmas Day, my kids plan to spend it with their in-laws. So I've been thinking about trying to find a soup kitchen or somewhere to go volunteer on Christmas Day, and thinking I may just make a little trip out to the hospital. That'd be a cool thing to do. So yeah, that'd be fun. All right. Awesome. Dang, that is so cool. I'll never listen to that song the same way again.
Thanks for bringing.
Yeah.
Thanks for telling us that, Brian. While we were sitting here, my kids actually just texted, group text for all the family, said, "Hey, how about if we get together the weekend before Christmas?" That leaves me with Christmas Eve and Christmas Day with something to do. I really appreciate that idea.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. Awesome. All righty. Does anyone else have any other thoughts about peace or joy or happiness or love or faith or hope this time of year that you want to leave for anybody, or give a message out to those watching the recording, because apparently we've got a following on the recordings. Hello to all you people watching on the recordings. Anybody else have any other comments you want to make on that? And then I have a few final thoughts.
Yeah, I got another one.
What's that?
If you know you're going to have a tough Christmas, go to the temple, because it'll help you get that perspective, and that's where you can get the perspective of what's going to happen. Elder Johnson in General Conference talked about the 3 Ds that Satan uses: the discouragement, distraction, and
Deception.
deception. And specifically, the deception was deception of our individual worth and of who we are. And I think going to the temple, he mentioned 4 other things that you can do, but he didn't mention going to the temple. But for me, going to the temple takes care of all 3 of the Ds. There's no deception about who you are and what Heavenly Father wants you to do. You can get a lot of inspiration on that. There's no distraction. You're totally focused on the plan and what the end result is, and the discouragement kind of fades as you realize what His plan is and where we really are. No matter how lost you may feel like you are in that plan, there is a plan, and you're in it still, and there is going to be a good ending. And going to the temple is what has helped me when I can't see the path from here to the ending, of recognizing that I'm still on it, even if it doesn't seem like it's the part of the path I thought I was supposed to. That's something that I've personally put out for myself, again, because this year I know I'm not going to have my kids on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve. I've made a goal to go to the temple between now and Christmas to help keep that good perspective, so that I can keep that peace.
That is cool. That is awesome.
I have a thought. In sacrament meeting, a little girl read a passage that Anne Frank had written about being grateful and being happy. And I was thinking about, I think you started out the talk or the night, Paula, saying, what is it going to take to make us be happy or whatever, so I know a lot of times especially in our situations, we might think, okay, once I get married and have a new family, once I am able to do this, once I'm able to do that, then it'll be a good Christmas. I'm sure that Anne Frank, could easily have said, once I get out of this attic, then I'll be able to, but her, in the passage from her diary, she said, she makes the choice to smile, and it struck me really, I don't know, she talked about how it changed the chemistry in her body and everything. I thought, this was one smart little girl, to know that a feeling of gratitude and just choosing to be happy changed the chemistry in her brain and made her have a better day and made her help other people have a better day. But anyway, I just thought that was, and you had talked last week about how the gratitude, changes your changes your brain, changes the way that you think and the way that you feel, and your body chemistry. But I also, as I sat there, she I said, right after I got through thinking, this one also said something about how you can just make all these bad things go out of your. We know, I'll put a plug out there for chemical imbalances too. There are sometimes when you actually have to have, something, in your body, like food or whatever, to make chocolate, right?
Definitely.
But to change that chemistry. So, but anyway, yeah, just the attitude, about all of it is a huge difference in how happy we are.
Very true. Very true. Awesome. Brian?
Okay, I know it's going to be cheesy. But I want to, if you haven't seen the new Frozen movie, I think it has a lot of messages for single adults.
Okay.
So there's, I'm going to, man, maybe I shouldn't spoil it.
Yeah, don't spoil it for us.
I'll just say that the songs, it goes through like life stages, right?
Oh.
And I'll give you the title of two of the songs, and they're back to back almost in the movie. One of them is Show Yourself. And the theme of the song is almost kind of like, I'm not going to ruin any of the movie, but the theme of the song is like, all right, here's my future. I want it now. And show yourself. Like, show me, here's my destiny. This is what my destiny was. Show yourself and show it now, you know. And then I'm not really spoiling any of the movie at all, promise. But right after that scene is a whole different song, and I won't tell you anything about why. You've got to go watch it. But right after that is a song called "The Next Right Thing," and where she basically, and I won't even say who she is, but she basically said, okay, everything that I've loved is gone. I have no reason to go on, but I'm just going to do the next right thing. I'm going to take a step. I'm going to move forward. I'm going to go on, and I'm just going to do the next right thing. And I'm not even going to worry about where I'm going. I'm just doing the next right thing is what it's called. And it's kind of a sad song too, but of course the movie ends. Well, you'll have to see how the movie ends. So anyway, but it's good. And I think it really kind of approaches, it even has one song that's a good bit earlier in it that's like Into the Unknown. And I think it's more of like where we all were when we were maybe teenagers or something, about going into the world and into the unknown. But and there's even like a little kid one that's like, I'll understand this better when I grow up. But you just got to see it. But I think the whole soundtrack, I love the soundtrack of this. And I was not big on the first Frozen movie. I tolerated it because my kids loved it. But this one has everything to do with like life stages, the theme of it.
Awesome. So, hey, there's an idea for another single adult event, right? Yeah, that's awesome. Definitely. So there's an idea for another single adult activity. You can go and watch Frozen 2. So there you go. Bring some togetherness there. All right. And I know there are some people whose tradition is on Christmas Day to go watch a movie and maybe go to dinner or something. Anyway, so I know there are people that do that. So maybe that's something else. Lots of ideas here. All right. Well, I am going to go ahead and wrap up. I have thoroughly enjoyed being able to be a part of your life this year and growing in our friendships and getting to know each other. You guys are so awesome, and I've learned so much from you. I look forward to continuing to learn from you even next year as we start the Come Follow Me study groups. I'm looking at my calendar now, so give me just a minute because, you know, I'm not that prepared, flying by the seat of my pants and all. Let me tell you, we're going to resume back on January 5th with Come Follow Me because we'll be studying the Book of Mormon. So I am looking forward to that. And we will kind of do a little bit of a hangout, if you will, before. So my plan is to log on about 6:50 Eastern time. We can hang out for a few minutes and chat, catch up if you want to, be friends for a few minutes. Well, we'll be friends anyway, but you know what I mean, like just chat like we've been doing the last few calls. And then I'll start the recording, and then we'll do the Come Follow Me. And we will definitely incorporate and talk about, our discussions will be from the angle of a single adult in the church. And I'm looking forward to that. I think that will be something different than what we've been doing. I know that it's a challenge for some people to do it in person. So so we will see, you know, how this all comes about. I will probably I mean, not probably. I will figure out the webinar link and that kind of thing. I'll probably make it so that nobody has to register. So it may be a new link. I'm going to be looking into that. So just keep keep a lookout for the email coming, and I will be posting that out to all of you guys. I would like also some help.
Can I ask a quick question?
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Are we going to be studying, are we going to be going over the stuff from the week before or the new material for the upcoming week?
You know, I've been wondering that myself. What do you think would be best? Personally, I like it when I can keep up with the church's schedule, but I don't remember what that is. Is that the week before, the week after? What do you think? Will we have something the week before January 5th? Or are they starting on January 5th?
I don't know. I can run out.
Yeah, do that and let me know, because, you know, it could be cool just to study what's coming up ahead so we can be ready for next week's Sunday school lesson. And then just kind of do it that way, because then that way we're not always backtracking. But, you know, whatever.
The only thing that's out there is through the 29th. It doesn't have anything starting January 1st yet.
Okay. All right.
So it runs through the 29th.
Okay. So what are your thoughts on, like, on
So
the
we do
5th?
that
We
first
do it
week?
for the week prior. I mean, not prior, week after, like the week of. Like January 5th through 11th. We'll study that. So then on the 12th, when we show up for Sunday school, we're ready. We've already had that discussion. And then the night of the 12th, we'll talk about whatever it is for the 12th to the 18th, so that when we show up on the 19th, we're ready for that lesson. Does that make sense? Will that work for everybody? Okay. Yeah. Let's do that. So then that way we're not always feeling like we've got to go back in time to talk about what was talked about today in Sunday school, kind of thing. That makes sense? We're just going to move on. Okay. So yeah, so let's do that. And then I'll just keep the same time of 7 if that works for people, or if it helps you guys to do later, we can always do later. You know, whatever works best for you guys, just let me know. I think if any of you can just send me a message and let me know if you have a preference on time or any opinion on time, then that could be helpful as well. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a fabulous Thanksgiving and Christmas. And I look forward to seeing you. If you want to come join us in Atlanta, we do have our second Saturday Christmas party, and we'll have a New Year's Eve dance before I see you again.
What date?
So the second Saturday, I don't know, whatever the second Saturday is, and I think it's the 14th. We're going to be actually at the Sheridan's house doing a Christmas dinner, white elephant party, and carols around the piano, and then going to a regional choir performance. So that will not be the temple dinner dance that day. Although we will be doing the temple, but we'll just do an earlier session. And then New Year's Eve is New Year's Eve on December 31st, and it will be at the Glen Ridge building where we normally have it. Sound good? All right. You guys are awesome. I really appreciate you guys, and I really do appreciate you spending your Sunday evenings with me. And I will see you soon. Thanks so much. Good night.
Love you.